Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It's Cyber Monday, Tony. Did you get yourself any good deals online?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. 20% off Spanx.
It's got to be in the.
And what are you going to do with those?
Going to wear them.
I'm going to wear them. Street corner. You know, go out to Connecticut and L and just say I got Spanx.
As you know, I'm not much of a Cyber Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Ever purchased anything online?
An actual item that comes to my house? No, because I don't trust it.
That's two people in the universe. Charles Barkley.
I want to
the only two.
Hold things, touch things. I want to try them on. I mean, I'm talking about mostly clothing.
Yeah.
I imagine I could get a book that way, but no, I haven't.
Inflatable doll?
Please. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Baker Mayfield is chilly. Big Ben throws one away, and the Jaguars make a change at quarterback. But we begin today with what might be the obituary for this year's Green Bay Packers. They lost last night in Minnesota 24-17, and the Packers are now 4-6-1. Aaron Rodgers says the only way the Packers can make the playoffs is to sweep their last 5 games. Wilbon, you have hated the Cheeseheads your entire life.
My whole life.
Are you counting the Packers out?
No, because I've hated Bart Starr. Should I count him out? I hated Brett Favre. Should I count him out? I don't hate Aaron. I love Aaron Rodgers. No, I'm not going to count him out because they know they can win every game. But every game, and the reason why I am standing over them and I'm insisting they take a standing 8 is because they got the Bears in Soldier Field in a few weeks.
That's right.
And they're going to lose. You never hear me say that.
So then you got to count them out.
You never hear me say about the Cardinals and the Packers, we're going to beat their butts.
Well, so then
they're going down.
So you are counting them out.
They can make a wild card.
No.
8-7-1.
No, they can't.
They can.
Not at 8-7-1.
Well,
no, they can't. Look, there are 3 quarterbacks out there right now that you don't count out. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Tom Brady.
That's right.
You don't ever count them out.
That's right.
Here are their next 5 games. So let's go through these. Okay. And I'll get to at Chicago.
All right.
Okay. There's Arizona, winnable game. Atlanta, winnable game.
At home, both at home.
At Chicago, you said they lose.
They're going down.
At Jets,
win.
Winnable game. Detroit at home.
Win.
The entire, the winning
the whole
percentage.
Season.
The winning percentage of those 5 teams is 38-2. 38% winning. But the reason I don't count them out is not the Chicago thing, because I think that they can win that game.
They're not going to win that game.
I've watched Carolina lose a lot of games. I've watched Philadelphia lose a lot of games. At the moment, the Washington Redskins are ahead of Green Bay, and I don't think that they are a particularly good team. So I don't yet count them out.
Either.
But you do.
No,
if you
I
say
don't. They got Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but if you say Chicago,
they're going down.
8-7-1 doesn't get you in the playoffs.
It might.
No, it doesn't.
It might. Look at the teams you're talking about. The Redskins and the Cowboys and all
9 and 7
wild card teams.
Might. 8.
They can't go 9 and 7.
That's right. 8.
They got that tie with the Vikes.
Right. So it's no.
Last night was hard for me.
Not going to happen.
Because I wanted to root for the Packers to beat the Vikings because the Vikings are the closest team to the Bears.
Yeah.
And I could not bring myself
to root for
the Packers. I couldn't do it.
Last night was a big game, a lot of eyeballs.
It was for me.
Kirk Cousins, who I've been critical of.
Yeah.
3 touchdown passes, no picks. He was great.
One quarterback I think was better than him this week, and we're going to get to him in a little bit. We have a complete flip-flop taking place in the NFC. Carolina was up, but is now choking its season away. And most of the Pacific Northwest was pointing a finger at Pete Carroll for dismantling the Seahawks, but now Seattle's in the thick of a wild card race. The Seahawks, mainly Russell Wilson, shattered Carolina's 10-game home winning streak. Carolina wasted fine efforts from Cam Newton, you see how cleanly shaven he is now, and Christian McCaffrey, who set a franchise record for yards from scrimmage. And now the Panthers have lost 3 straight. Tone, who's the bigger story here, Seattle or Carolina?
I can take either side of this. Me personally, I'm going to take the Carolina side because it wasn't that long ago when they were 6-2 that we actually had a topic on this show which went like this. Are we undervaluing Carolina?
Are they with
the Saints and the Rams? Yeah. Apparently not. Because not only have they lost 3-0, one of them, their coach, the Detroit, when you went for a 2-point,
gave it away twice.
It just, so that was terrible. They have fallen down. You can go ahead and make a case for Seattle. That's fine.
Pete Carroll, when I said the whole Pacific Northwest was giving him the finger, the middle finger.
Yeah.
They weren't pointing the index finger. They were angry at him. He seemed to be dismantling. He was
certainly the defense.
All the Super Bowl
certainly
pieces.
The defense.
Richard Sherman is up in San Francisco.
Yeah, the whole defense.
Not in Seattle or down in San Francisco from Seattle. So, Tony, and Russell Wilson seemed to be made like, oh, you're just a management puppy. That's all you are. You can't really play. Russell Wilson is playing his butt off. He's in that second level of guys underneath Drew Brees who could be considered for MVP at least of a conference. They've been good, Tony, and we did not see this coming.
Nobody would be considered an MVP of a conference if Drew Brees is in the conference.
I said underneath. I said next level underneath.
So I went the last 5 games with the Packers. Let me give you the last 5 for Carolina. Okay. At Tampa Bay is winnable.
Should be a W.
At Cleveland, I don't know right now.
W.
I don't know. New Orleans at home, no. Atlanta at home, and then at New Orleans.
Ooh.
They have all these games on the road. They are 1-4 at the moment on the road, and they could get to 9-7. But unlike you, I don't think 9-7 gets you in. I don't. I just don't.
You know what? Somebody who finishes 9-7 with tiebreakers is going to get.
We'll see.
Watch.
The Denver Broncos survived at home yesterday against the Pittsburgh Steelers when Ben Roethlisberger threw a terrible interception in the end zone with 1:03 to play. The Steelers had come into this game with a 6-game winning streak and had moved over the Patriots in the playoff picture. So, Wilbon, should we consider this a major upset, or are the Broncos sneaky good?
Not really either. Pittsburgh won 6 in a row. You don't win just 10 in a row every year. Okay, I mean, New Orleans is sort of on that path, but no, they were going to lose a game. They're going to lose another game. They're not going to win them all. So Pittsburgh had a tough – their Hall of Fame quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, you know I love him, he had a tough game yesterday. That last pick, I still think they're going to win the game there.
Well, they should.
They should have won the game.
They're first and goal when they start there.
The Broncos, Tony, they played 3 hot teams in a row.
That's
Texans,
right.
Chargers, Steelers. They do have this rookie running back, Phillip Lindsay, who's a beast. But after getting crushed by the Jets, there was no reason to believe in Denver. There wasn't. So Denver, I don't know about sneaky good. They won a game at home they should have won, and Pittsburgh was a little off.
I'm going to go to 2 things. The first thing is Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that you never doubt will get into the playoffs because they always get into the playoffs. He has 5 picks in the last 2 games. He should have had 6. They should have lost to Jacksonville, and they did lose to Denver. So right today, I'm not buying stock in that team right today.
Okay.
And then I'm going to tell people about a conversation that you and I had last night, an unsolicited conversation, in which I said to you, why do people constantly disparage Case Keenum? I think Case Keenum is a professional quarterback.
You and I think this is insane going back a year ago. Because the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings had nary a good word to say about a quarterback who got him to within an inch of the Super Bowl.
That's right.
So this is another reason for me to hate Minnesota.
I understand. If Minnesota wants Kirk Cousins, I'm okay with that.
But Case Keenum, he's not an upgrade for Case
Keenum is between 10 and 20 as a starter in this league.
Yes.
He's a professional quarterback.
I agree.
And they are a pretty good team.
They're pretty good.
They're a pretty good team. I could see them getting into the playoffs.
But not at 9-7.
No. Well,
somebody's going to get in each conference at 9-7.
Well, we'll see. You also said everybody was going to lose a game in college, and they don't.
There's time.
And they don't.
There's time.
Yeah, let me know if Alabama and Clemson lose. Oh, by the way, Notre Dame didn't lose.
Alabama may lose this week.
So we'll see if they do.
Don't get chesty now. 2 teams that don't really deserve being talked about all that much, Bengals, Browns, had a subplot yesterday that deserves being talked about. The Browns beat the Bengals, and it looked like a nice moment in live time when the Browns DB made an interception on the sideline, handed the ball to his former coach, Hugh Jackson, now a Bengals assistant. Look, here you go, coach, game ball. Later we find out Demarius Randall was essentially mocking Jackson. And as Baker Mayfield said after a half-hearted handshake, quote, left Cleveland, goes down to Cincinnati, asking us to play for him, and then he goes to a different team we play twice a year, close quote. Tony, what do you think of the Browns players now resenting Hugh Jackson?
Okay, so I don't think you have justification to resent the fact that he took a job that was offered to him in Cincinnati. He got fired in Cleveland.
Fired.
Cleveland said, go away.
That's right.
So whatever he wants to do is fine after that. But in terms of Baker Mayfield, I will say this. In the 3 games that Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley are not involved in, Baker Mayfield, who I think is going to be real good, has 9 touchdowns and 1 interception. He's much better. They're 2-1. And here is a quote from Mayfield. Yeah. We have people we believe in calling the plays now, and that is a shot at Jackson and Haley.
Yes.
There's no other way to look at it.
And it's okay. But I don't want to hear this. He goes down and says, shut up.
No, you can do
because
that.
Because players are the first ones to say to anybody with a microphone or a pen and pad, it's a business.
That's right.
You guys got to understand the business.
He wouldn't be there.
The coach got fired and he went to a place for employment. So Baker Mayfield and Demarius Randall, get off the stage. You're wrong.
There was an interesting report by our friend Jason Lockenfor of CBS Sports the other day that if Marvin Lewis were to go somewhere else, and by go somewhere else, I mean be canned.
Cleveland?
If he were canned, that the Cincinnati Brain Trust would consider hiring Hugh Jackson.
It's their move. They hire people they know who've worked for them.
He's 336-1 in Cleveland.
You know
what?
Mike Brown. You covered the league.
You can't do
what
that.
does Cincinnati do?
You can't do that.
What do they do?
Well, you know, Greg Williams, the second G stands for genius. He's 2-1. He's surprised
right now.
He has. They are surprising.
You want to hitch your wagon to the Cleveland Browns? Just yet?
Not just yet.
Okay.
Or to this team, the Jacksonville Jaguars continue to spin right down the bowl.
Like a dumb
they
team.
lost in Buffalo yesterday after their star running back Leonard Fournette was thrown out for fighting. This morning they fired their offensive coordinator, and this afternoon, current head coach Doug Marrone announced that Cody Kessler would start at quarterback instead of franchise quarterback Blake Bortles. Wilbon, does this solve the Jaguars' problem?
No. You know what? This is what I'm going to say now is completely contradictory. I like Doug Marrone. Every public utterance, whenever you see him.
Seems honest.
I like Doug Marrone.
Seems honest.
I think they are the dumbest team going in any sport in America. Just a big S for stupid on their heads. They do more stupid stuff every week. They got to get into fights. They got to run their mouths in magazines and say something stupid about it. They are team stupid. They major in stupid. And so how can replacing the quarterback alone fix all of that? You tell me.
I don't really care if Cody Kessler is bad because he's a backup quarterback. I think as a starter, he's 0-8 in the leagues, backup quarterback. Blake Bortles isn't good.
No.
He's the overall number 3 pick in the draft. They gave him a $54 million extension, which means we like what we see.
That's right.
We like what we see. And I will just say he's not good. If I were them, I'd be looking at getting Joe Flacco or Eli Manning.
You're not getting them
in
right
there.
now.
Eli
Manning.
Year, Eli Manning. Eli Manning who's
wearing a shawl and knitting.
Eli
at
Manning.
This point,
Don't knock knitting.
I love
my house knit. And they watch the Hallmark Channel.
Sorry,
Do
Carol.
not knock that.
I apologize about that.
That's right.
Eli Manning, who I would vote for the Hall of Fame, unlike Jerry Rice and others, I would. Right. Eli Manning, stop.
Joe Flacco.
Once again, do you think that the quarterback position, seeing what you see, people fighting, people being idiots every week.
It's not all of it.
So how are they going to get better?
They're worse on defense. They're worse on offense. There was a period of time I thought they'd been in the Super Bowl this year. They were 3-1, and they blasted
What
New
did
England.
I say to you after going into week 3? You can't win with stupid.
Let's take a break. Coming up, Lamar Jackson is 2-0 as a starter. So should the Ravens still go back to Joe Flacco?
You got him traded to Jacksonville.
I do.
And after beating down Michigan, does Ohio State have a better case of making the playoff than Oklahoma?
By the way, do you know Andy Dalton's out for the whole year now?
No, I didn't know
Torn
that.
thumb?
I didn't know
Andy Dalton. So Cincinnati, that's
But you can't predict them. They might go on a 5-0 now.
Really?
5-0 with the backup. They might.
He started out very. It's mail time where you take the time to write us questions and we don't even bother to put your names on them.
Yeah, we do.
Let
And
me
then
get
Tony
the
scratches
first one.
your name off, and it's really unfair.
Should the
It's a serial
Ravens
number.
stick with Lamar Jackson?
Kind of. And I'm for this, and I told you this a couple weeks ago in live time. I would, when Flacco's ready to come back, I'd play them both. Imagine the nightmares that the defensive coordinator would have on any team if he had to prepare for those two quarterbacks, different as they are.
Didn't they play that way in the beginning of the year?
Yeah,
Wasn't
but
Lamar
I think
Jackson
that was
out there a little bit?
preseason. He might have been out there. I'm not talking about a cameo wildcat.
Yeah.
I'm talking about play both guys, and you could really confound people. You against that?
It's not that I'm against that. I don't think that that's the proper way to go. I like Joe Flacco, who's got a great playoff record and was the MVP of a Super Bowl. I think he's done. Lamar Jackson is the future there.
You think he's done, but you don't think Eli Manning's done?
I think he's done there. I think he'd be great in Jacksonville.
All right.
Lamar Jackson is the way that John Harbaugh saves his job. If Lamar Jackson gets him
winning.
If Lamar Jackson gets him to the playoffs, they can't possibly get rid of John Harbaugh.
But why can't both of them get him into and through?
Because it's too complicated, Mike.
They still have the defense along with the Steelers to hit Tom Brady in the mouth in that conference.
It's
too complicated.
To play two guys like that, a stand-up quarterback and a run quarterback. It's too complicated.
You just don't understand the game, do you?
No, I don't.
Phillip Rivers tying the consecutive completions record. Big deal, little deal. No deal at all.
It's a little deal. It's nice that he's in the record books with something like that.
Wow.
Here's what is interesting to me, and you and I have talked about this. He is in the draft class with Ben Roethlisberger and Eli Manning, and both of them will probably go to the Hall of Fame. Phillip Rivers, playing fewer games, has a higher completion percentage, has more touchdowns and fewer interceptions, but he's never won in the playoffs, and they've got 2 rings each.
Well, that's a Hall of Fame discussion we can have later on Phillip Rivers, who would be in the top 5, maybe the top 3 for MVP. For me, he's behind. Again, he too is behind Drew Brees in the league.
Everyone is behind Drew
Everybody's
Brees.
behind him. Tony, this is a big deal because Phillip Rivers went Bill Walton. I mean, he did something that that was Phil Simms in that game where Simms was what, 22 for 24, something like that.
Good
That was
in the Super Bowl.
Okay. So this is a major thing.
Do you really think so?
San Diego's on a roll in a little. I know they lost a game they shouldn't have lost. But, Tony, you got to like the Chargers.
You don't trust
I don't trust that team.
So there you go.
But he may make a fool out of me.
Talking out of both
Good
sides
for
of your
him.
mouth at that point.
I look at the proof.
Better case to make the playoffs, Oklahoma or Ohio State?
Tony, this is entirely relevant because it's going to depend on whether Georgia beats Alabama. If Georgia beats Alabama in a game that starts at 4 Eastern this Saturday,
right,
Georgia's in. And it'll be in some order, and I think it should be Clemson at that point. Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia, Alabama. Those 4 should be in.
That's right.
And Ohio State, kicking off at 8 p.m. Eastern time, would be out. And therefore, but if Alabama wins the game, then we're talking Oklahoma, Ohio State. I think I might go with Oklahoma. Ohio State got punched in the mouth at Purdue. I mean, Oklahoma lost a game to Texas, a rival.
Yeah.
It's not equal.
Yeah. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Not.
There has been no game this year as decisively won and almost as surprisingly won as the way the Ohio State University shredded Michigan.
All true.
They were the number 3 team in the country with the number 1 defense in the country, and the other team got over 60 points on them. Oklahoma doesn't have a win like that. Nobody has a win like that. The only win comparable is Alabama shutting out LSU when they were number 3.
Tony, you know the committee. They like to look at losses and assess. You don't think they're going to look at the losses of Oklahoma and Ohio State?
Not with that win, Mike. That's the number 1 win. That's
it. Every year on these poll things. Did Tiger and Phil, and you were crazy enough to pay for it,
watched it,
live up to their own hype? Answer the question. Live up to their own hype.
Every shot of it. It was a bad broadcast on the few occasions that Tiger and Phil were actually talking to each other, because they don't do that. The people in the booth were talking over them, and you couldn't hear Tiger and Phil. It was bad golf. These guys are +6 players, and they didn't putt, and it wasn't any good. All right? What they should have done is taken Charles Wade Barkley out of that dopey set he was on and had him walk the course with them and chat them up all the way around.
You love Charles.
And with everything that I have said about how bad it was, I loved every second of it. I would watch it again 10 times. Loved it.
I watched it starting at 14, and they gave.
Well, you got to see 17. You got to see the chipping.
I got to see
the only shot.
They gave each other more putts than you and me at Columbia on a Saturday afternoon in the summer. Put it out. Give me some competition. Give me some trash talk. There was none of that. You say Charles was good, and you didn't like anything else.
No. Charles was underutilized. He should have been walking the course with them. He'd have been great. Enough female. He was the first guy to say, the golf is terrible. Let's take a break. But still to come, could Mack Brown be the right coach for North Carolina?
Plus, the 2 words Tony loves the most, Jimmy Butler.
When are they going to get rid of him in Minnesota?
My man.
When is he going to be traded from Minnesota?
Game-winning shots. Who's got more this year?
I have no idea.
Him or any?
Hey, Harry Carson, this is for you, Wilbur.
Good.
Because this is when defense ruled the NFL.
Real men.
In the 80s, when the Giants had Carson and Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks and Leonard Marshall. And as good as the Giants were, the Bears' defense was even better. So happy birthday, Hall of Famer, Harry Carson.
Carson, Banks, Marshall, Taylor. There's only 2 guys in the Hall of Fame, Carson and Taylor. Banks and Marshall should be in too. Those defenses were fabulous. Yes, they were second to the Bears. They were still great.
Not so happy anniversary to the Dolphins and Steelers. On this day 11 years ago, Pittsburgh hosted Miami in a Monday night rainstorm on a newly resodded turf at Heinz Field. After a lightning delay, the 2 teams slogged through a quagmire, scoreless for 59.5 minutes until the Steelers managed a field goal in the final seconds for a 3-0 win. I did that game. I remember after a punt, stuck dead in the ground on its end, saying to Tirico and Jaws, I guess I got to play lift, clean, and place on this one.
How'd that line go over in the booth?
Pretty well. Jaws is
a
golfer. Tirico's a golfer.
What a
That's the punt.
Look at the turf. Look at that.
It was dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. Happy trails, Cliff Kingsbury and Larry Fedora. Kingsbury was fired by Texas Tech after going 5-7 this year and 16-21 over the last 3 years. Fedora was fired by North Carolina after going 2-9 this year and 5-18 the last 2 years. Fedora no longer has to waste time coaching. He can go straight to the gym and lift. Interestingly, North Carolina and Mac Brown are reportedly negotiating a coaching deal. Brown coached in North Carolina before going to Texas.
You know who Kingsbury coached? A guy we'd like to call Pat Mahomes.
So he's got talent.
There's got to be a job for him somewhere.
Well,
if not as a head coach and a coordinator, right?
Certainly one would think. Yeah. No errors today, so we go to the big fish.
Let's do it.
USC is keeping Clay Helton. Is that the right call by A.D. Lynn Swann?
I don't know, some very famous USC guys. Mike Garrett, Pat Hayden, Lynn Swann. They run it. They make some good, some bad decisions. There's another famous guy. He's not available.
He is available, actually, now. He's totally available. Eric Reed, go. Your call.
Eric Reed was selected for a random drug test for what he says is the 6th time. Random, really?
No, that's not random at all. It's deliberate. And as long as he passes each one, he turns the NFL to stick.
15 yards, targeting.
Jimmy Butler made his second game winner in 8 days. Is this a big deal?
He saved it from losing to your Nets. They're 6-2 since the trade. You need to apologize to my man, Jimmy Butler. New number 1, Gonzaga hosts North Dakota State tonight. Let down?
No, even if it's a letdown, they're not going to. Look, they beat Duke.
They did.
That's a really impressive win.
It was.
They will win this game. Last one, Titans and Texans tonight. Is it 8 in a row for the Texans?
Like Pittsburgh, like New England, you can't win them all in a row. I'm going to go with the Titans for an upset.
Really?
How about
that? To win outright, not the points.
I don't do the points.
Really, you should. We're out of time. Try and do better the next time, and I'm Tony Kornheiser.
Do outright or the confidence pool. That's it. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. Now let's send it to Susie Colbert and the Monday Night Countdown crew.